Jesus is interceding for you. The Holy Spirit is interceding for you. What in the world does that mean? Let's go to the Bible and find out. Happy Wednesday, everybody. My name is Brandon Ball, pastor here at Church Unlimited, and this is your midweek boost. Church was just 3 days ago. 3 days from now, we'll be connecting again. But let's take a quick look at what we talked about this past Sunday. The name of the message was called Making Intercession, specifically in regards to Paul's exhortation in the book of Romans, or in Romans chapter number 8. Now, we learned last week that there were 3 different groans that Romans 8, specifically the second half, deals with. The first 2 groans we talked about, again, last week, and that was that the creation is groaning currently. We also know that our bodies are groaning currently. Here's what Paul says in Romans 8:22. We know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs until now. This groaning is a groan of grief. It's groaning as an expression of something that isn't quite fixed yet. That word groaning, it means an expression of grief or relief. This is the first grief one. The second one we found out about is our bodies are groaning. Verse 23. Not only that, but also we have the first fruits of the Spirit, and we ourselves groan within, eagerly waiting for the adoption, that is the redemption of our bodies. And so what we learned is that one day, this earth and all of its creation, our bodies and everything that you see on the outside, one day it'll be perfect. That's when Christ returns, when our adoption is finalized. The papers weren't just signed, but Daddy shows up to collect us. And so currently that's not the situation. And so until then, this earth will continue to groan through grief. And your body will continue to demonstrate that it's not quite fixed yet. But there's a third groan that fixes everything that God intended to fix at the cross. And that's the groan of the Spirit on the inside of us. Verse 23. Likewise, the Holy Spirit helps in our weaknesses. Now, what is our weakness? Is this a weakness for sugar when we're on a diet? Is it a weakness for that we're a bit impatient in traffic? Or is the weakness something that the context reveals to us? Well, fortunately, Paul has already told us what our weakness is. Our weakness in this context is we cannot see what Jesus has done inside of us because this body is covering it. That's why earlier Paul says creation's ready for the sons of God to be revealed. Now, currently, this body is guarding us from seeing the perfect Spirit that's in us. And one day it won't. So until then, this is a weakness, being able to see what Jesus has done. So what did he do? He gave us the Holy Spirit to help us along the way. What's the help that he offers us? Verse number 26b helps us with that. 4, regarding our human weakness, for we don't know what to pray as we ought, but the Spirit himself makes intercession. We don't know how to pray as we ought. This is not about praying for your job, or praying for your children, or praying for your spouse, or praying for your finances. This is specifically in regards to communicating with God and understanding what he's given us inside. Communicating with God, talking, allowing the sound of God. We're not sure exactly with our human brain how to describe this new nature on the inside of us. So he gave us the Spirit to help describe it to our own spirit. It says the Spirit makes intercession. Now, a lot of times if you've memorized that verse, you throw in 2 more words, intercession for us. For us is not in the original Greek. The Holy Spirit makes intercession. The first intercession that we find in 2 verses. Verse 26 and 27, the word intercession is found twice. This is the first one. It's the only time you find it in your entire Bible. And so understanding what it means is everything. Does this mean that the Holy Spirit's praying for you? Well, that's not a good enough picture. That doesn't give you the understanding of what Paul is trying to communicate. This word intercession, from the Strong's Greek Concordance. If you know how to look one of those up, check it out online. It's Strong's number 5241. In this word intercession, it means to grant, to bestow, or to confer a benefit. The Holy Spirit is groaning on the inside of you, and that groaning is not a sound. It's not a literal sound. It's not the sound coming out of your mouth. It's not a sound that your human body makes. The groaning is the sound of relief, figuratively, that your spirit is absolutely perfected. That's a sound of relief. And he's conferring the benefit of your salvation. If you've ever checked out the Guinness Book of World Records, you know how fun it is to see what we keep track of. We keep track of some crazy stuff as humans. The longest tongue in the world, for example, 4 inches long, according to the book of Guinness. The longest fingernails, 28 feet, 4 inches long. The longest mustache in the world, 14 feet. The oldest male stripper in the world, 60 years old. Come on, we got to have a 61-year-old that can beat that. Please don't try it at home. Anyway, the reality is that we love to keep records. But a record is only as good as the organization that backs it. You can keep a record on your own. You can vote who's the best looking spouse in the world. And in your own family, everybody might vote for you. But you don't go to the front yard and post, voted best looking spouse in America. Why? Because it's not really backed by anything legitimately. So we understand that what's happening when the Holy Spirit confers salvation, righteousness, He's backing the God of the universe's vote that you are right with God. Now that's a committee I can get behind. When the Holy Spirit confers the benefit of salvation, friends, it's legitimate. It's lasting. It is eternal. That's the first intercession that's mentioned in 2 verses. Back to verse 26 of Romans 8. The Spirit Himself makes intercessions with groanings which cannot be uttered. Groanings that your brain cannot come up with the sound. Your mind cannot describe what God has done in you. It is impossible. It'd be like me saying this. How do you describe a foswhimper to someone who's never been to Chimbawafoo? Well, those words are probably landing on deaf ears because you've never heard of either a foswhimper or a Chimbawafoo. Why? Because I made them both up. You don't know what the item is, and you don't know where Chimbawafoo is. The point is how do you describe salvation to someone who's never been to heaven? How do you describe righteousness, pure, perfect, holy righteousness to someone who's never been in the presence of God? You can't do it because you're a human being. But guess what? The Holy Spirit does both. He is conferring the benefit of salvation. That's what the first intercession means. The second one's found in verse 27. Now He, God, who searches the hearts of believers, that's you, He knows what the mind of the Spirit is. And finally, we get to this second intercession because He, this would be Jesus. We just saw a picture of the Trinity. The Father knows what the heart of the Spirit is because He, the Son, the Trinity is displayed here. He makes intercession for the saints according to the will of God. Well, let's don't get off in a ditch trying to figure out what it means and go to a bunch of books and a bunch of denominations asking them. Let's let Paul tell us. Paul tells us clearly, according to the entire context of Romans 8, that Jesus is making intercession. This word intercession does not mean He's praying for you. It doesn't mean He's on His knees before the Father asking God to bless you. This word intercession means this. In Strong's Greek Concordance, it's number 1793. A totally different word than the intercession just a verse earlier. Now this throws us off in our English vocabulary brains because we so desperately want to tell people God's praying for you, and somehow that makes them feel better. But the reality is that something much greater has gone on here. It wasn't that God was requesting something on your behalf. It's that God is conferring the benefit of perfection. This word intercession, it means hit the bullseye. Jesus hit the bullseye for you. The law required perfect, pristine. I'm talking about without a blemish. It's hard for our minds to get around. We can't create anything perfect on the earth. And yet the standard of God, He's not picky, He's perfect. And Jesus hit the bullseye. We see a picture of 2 intercessions here. The first intercession, the Spirit makes intercession in you, conferring the benefit. The benefit of what? The benefit of Jesus. Jesus now is in heaven. The Holy Spirit's in you, conferring the benefit of salvation. Jesus is in heaven, having hit the bullseye of the requirement of perfection. Jesus was perfected, and so are you. This is incredible. This is the new covenant. This should blow your mind. Your brain will never understand fully what your spirit readily accepts by faith. Instead of allowing your brain to try to calculate God through a system of steps, this is what the walk of faith is. Let's contend for the faith. Understanding this, that what Paul just described to us is not a remedy to have a better Tuesday or Wednesday or Friday. What Paul is teaching is that something's on the inside of you, the Holy Spirit, reminding you that you are a son and a daughter of God. And Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, reminding him that the work is finished. There's no more steps for you to be made right with God. This is what making intercession is all about. I pray this is a blessing to you. My great desire is that you would enjoy every single moment for the rest of your week. Remember this, God is only good. You are blessed and highly favored. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time.